Hello and welcome to Finding Your North Star, the HGKC podcast series where we talk to prominent business people about their experiences and challenges of innovation. I'm Peter Quintana and I'm delighted to welcome Phil Warren, founder and managing director of Energy and Technical Services, an award-winning multidisciplinary practice specialising in energy management, technical engineering, building automation and compliance. Formed over 20 years ago as a facilities management support business, Phil has, in the last 4 to 5 years, pivoted the business away from a traditional energy management and M&E consultancy to a data-led organisation able to offer his clients significant insights and guidance on building performance optimisation and system integration. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you for inviting me.
Our pleasure. So we continually hear, Phil, about how technology innovations are helping businesses to do old things in new ways. But one of these, remote access, which has actually been around quite a long time, has really provided you with the opportunity to step up quickly to meet the new challenges being faced by your clients. So could we start there, please, with some background and how this has helped you to add value during lockdown?
Yes, really what remote connectivity, for those old enough to remember dial-up modems and waiting for the bebop boos to finish and hoping that you had a connection. We've had access to remote buildings for over 30 years. So with the advent of the Internet of Things and the way data acquisition has happened, we've always been in this space, but we've seen massive uptake in the amount of data that we're able to collect and the decisions that can be made out the back of this data. And it's very, very important. And as we go through the discussion, we'll talk about the answering the right questions for the customer. This has helped us to have more and more data points within the buildings. So when we have connectivity with these buildings, our clients have quite layered businesses, and different people want different things from the data that we collect, so we're able to collect and satisfy a number of points as we roll through the buildings. And it's quite interesting that one of the things that we've done last year, because we've always had these connections, we acquired a business to enable us to get more data connections quickly, more clever guys on site. So because now moving into this horrible COVID situation, we've had the resources able to be remotely operating the buildings that are still in place and looking at how we mothball the buildings that are currently in play. And that means we can do it remotely without exposing our operatives to site restrictions or exposure to any health and safety issues working remotely. So it's been quite a journey for the last 22 years to see the changes that have happened and how we've incorporated an awful lot of those technological advances.
And it'll also help you when we do come out of this to be able to unmothball those buildings, if you like, and also phase them back into use, because it's quite likely that we're not going to be going straight back everybody to work all at once, is it?
Absolutely right. And you don't want to flick the switch and turn all the systems on and have a building which is quite inefficient in its operation, especially at the moment when everybody's looking at saving costs. You've got to be able to appropriate the right amount of control to the amount of people that are coming in. And when you're integrating a number of different systems, it's quite interesting what can be done. What we found also with COVID, there are new regulations with regard to airflows. So what we're able to do, rather than shut everything down and run it at minimum, we've actually got to operate them with greater airflow. So we put more air through the building so that they are breathing a little better. And then we are able to monitor that against the energy consumption that's happening to get the best efficiency for the client against the latest guidelines there are, because an awful lot of people don't understand the guidelines and they don't understand the mechanical electrical equipment. So we're able to do that for them.
Yeah, you mentioned data points. You started investing some time ago into artificial intelligence, didn't you, to allow you to tap into greater volumes of data for your clients. So what exactly have you done, and how has that helped you now? How's that helped you today?
Well, it's about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided the business to do a major pivot from what you would understand from a mechanical electrical consultancy that you'd recognize that do energy management. I decided that we should pivot to be a data-led organization without actually realizing all the things that that would bring. However, as we've gone on this journey, we have invested heavily in data infrastructure and IT, and we now have a data warehouse, which enables us to basically pour data points into a warehouse, and then we can run queries for clients. And it's now turning into a situation that the client is asking us to take different information to overlay it with our mechanical or electrical, the energy consumption, and other aspects of what they do. If I give you a, for instance, we're working in Europe with a major petrol provider. However, it's not just petrol, it's petrol, they've got a shop, they've got a cafe, they've got massive car washes, and they've got electric charging points. So we've hooked up their buildings from a mechanical, electrical, energy perspective, but we're also now taking information about how many people fill up from the petrol pumps, how many people are using the electrical charging points, and of those demographics, how many people are going through the car wash, and of those people that have stopped to fill up electrically or charge electrically, how many of them are then buying chocolate bars, or are they buying hamburgers, and how many coffees are they buying? Do they need 2 coffee machines or just 1 at peak time? So it's now different sorts of data sets that we're able to collect now that we've invested in that infrastructure. So that's for us been a major step forward, and we're now looking at things that we really didn't expect to be looking at, but it's to the client's benefit. He's still efficient, and he wants to be efficient with other services that we haven't explored for them previously.
Yeah, so it's almost from going from an energy management consultancy to one that's consulting around service design and the actual service blueprint in places like forecourts and other buildings that are being used by customers and the general public, I guess.
Absolutely, because we work very heavily in commercial office building stock and with retailers. And you can imagine with retailers, they've got refrigeration, heating, ventilation, lighting controls, how many people are buying the latest offers that they're putting up. So there's all this sort of data that is there, and it's now layering that data so that the right people in the right part of the organization can get the information back. Some of it is as simple as, if you want to run your chill dial at a certain temperature, what does that do to the refrigeration? And what does that do to the customer's shopping experience? Do we all linger longer in the chill dial, or do we get out of there because it's a bit chilly? And that's the sort of data points that the customer's now looking at, again, with flows around the building. Where are people going? Are they stopping to look at the latest offer that we have, usually on the end of an aisle? And what's the temperature there? What's the humidity? Is it a comfortable place for them to be shopping? So the retailers are looking at this quite heavily.
I've heard in the conversations that we've had, I've heard you say several times, let's learn together, referring to conversations you're having with your clients. What exactly do you mean by that?
It's a very interesting question. I think it's as much when we sit with a client, we know an awful lot of technology. We have years and years of technological experience with various applications. So we know what we can do. The customer doesn't fully appreciate the range of what can be done. So it's a case of not just selling what we've got, but sitting with them and discussing what are the other benefits that will come out if we do this. What is the other information that you can get that we can learn about together? And when we start to learn about your building, your operation, we can then offer other insights from the data that we collect with you and for you. So it's very much that we don't go in with a complete solution, because a client has a problem and we can solve that problem, but it's a case of expanding the conversation to say, well, what else do you want to get at the technologies that we can put in your premises? So it's very much that let's learn together, because that way we've got a deeper time with the building. We're stickier as a supplier to them because we're giving them good information. And then when a new technology comes up, they quite often will say to us, let's have a look at this together. Where's it going to work? So we're able to become part of their organization, so that we're trusted and relied on, and we can talk quite openly about the information that they have at their fingertips and who's going to benefit from it within their organization. So we cross a lot of silos really within organizations.
Yeah, again, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because one of the things that struck me when we've been talking is the extent to which your clients will bring you a new technology solution that they've been offered by somebody else, and not even you, to review. So why would they bring that to you and not have that conversation with the technology supplier themselves?
Quite often people will sell what they've got rather than what the customer wants. And there may be a solution that is great, but we're completely technology agnostic. We really don't mind where it's come from, what it is. So the client, because as we've just spoken about, got data points and looking at the building, they'll actually come to us and say, right, we've been offered this. They say, you know, the vendor says it's going to save us 15% of our energy. Why aren't we using it? So then we have to look at the maths on it. We look at the science on it, look at the engineering involved in whatever the product may be. And then we can make an evaluation for the client and say, actually, this is just an iteration of what's gone before, and it's not going to do what it says it's going to do. Or we think this might have legs. Let's put it in a place in one of your sites that's live, that we can then run the tests to see what's happening. And then we'll go through the monitoring and targeting of that initiative, and actually say, because we've got no commercial time with any of this equipment, we'll say that is a great piece of equipment, we need to roll it out, and then we'll work out how that happens. Or it really didn't give us the results that we were anticipating, so therefore it's not good for your estate, and we take it away. So we find doing that we are quite near the edge of a lot of new technology that's coming through. As you'll imagine, retailers and a lot of facilities providers are inundated with people selling them the next best thing. And really, they're not technically qualified to, the customer is not technically qualified to evaluate what he's being sold. So we sit there as a trusted advisor just to run through with the client. And that's our role. And it's again, it makes us a sticky supplier to these organizations, because it just says, I'll send it off to ETS and they'll have a look at it for us.
You didn't really set out to be a systems integrator, but it gives you a potential new market, whole new market, doesn't it?
Oh, massively, absolutely massively. If you think of any commercial building retailer, they've got so many different systems that they're working, and systems is an overused word in my industry, because you'll have in a supermarket refrigeration, heat and vent, lighting, small power, and it's all on different control systems. So now with connectivity, the client is saying, well, I want all these points connected so that I've got one dashboard where I can look at all these points. So, and in commercial office buildings, it's a case we're going to be in a touchless, low physical communication world when we do go back. So when you're going into a commercial office building a meeting, it'll be on your iPhone. You'll swipe your iPhone on the way in, and the doors will open. It'll say who you are. That'll physically sign you into the building. You've then got barriers that you will then show your phone to, and it will say go to lift 3. Lift 3 will then take you to the floor that you're on. Then you have a map on your phone that will take you to the meeting room. You just tap your phone on the meeting room iPad or whatever they've got there, and that will tell the meeting organizer that you're there. By the time that's happened, the lighting will have come on in the meeting. The AV will be working in there, so you don't have to phone the IT guys and cables and trying to connect laptops. It'll all be there and working for you, and at the right temperature. So there's all these advancements, but because you've got existing systems and you've got the new systems, we're finding that we're doing an awful lot of looking at how to marry the two together without massive expense for the client. And this is where the clever people we have in the organization will sit and think about it, and the different computer languages that are involved, and say, well, we know this works with whatever application. And this is a massive market for us now.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who was saying that one of the functions of business is as a place of social contact. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that all unfolds after we come out of this period. But
you will have very smart spaces as well, Peter.
Yeah.
In that you're going into work, you'll have all those processes that will sign you into the building automatically, and your workstation, because because your phone has told everything that's connected that you're coming, your workstation will be live by the time you get there. And in the fullness of time, there'll be a coffee machine on the way that you'll just pick up Peter's cup of coffee and on your way to your workstation, which is already fired up for you and ready to go. And this is on the way. These smart working spaces is all part of the big picture.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people. I mean, talking about people and what the impact is going to be, or what the working world is likely to be when we come out of lockdown and beyond. But there's a lot of people talking about the impact of working from home and furlough on your people. How have I know your people, you've got some furlough, but everybody else more or less working from home. How have your people found it, and what have you been doing to help them through this period? And I mean, you've just talked about whether we'll ever go back to how things were, but you know, so how's it going now? How are your people now?
Well, as much as anybody, when the crisis hit, we were going through a massive IT infrastructure. We were on continual improvement, and we were just getting over a major speed bump. And fortunately, a month prior to lockdown happening, we had bought 20 Surface Pro computers that we were going to give to our people and integrate them into this. So for us, straight away, we had 20 laptops that we could give to people and say, go home. We had the hookups and VPN connections to our remote working space at that time. So it wasn't too difficult. But what we found is that the traffic through personal VPNs came a bit lumpy. So through the last 3 weeks, we've had, again, a lot of work going on to shift to a new connections module through a VDI, and everything we have moved from some remote servers in the office. Everything's out on the cloud now, and our efficiency has come up massively. And now we're trying to monitor and manage those efficiencies. We've got 17 people still working, 15 are out furloughed. For us, communication, Peter, has been a massive part of this, that we've had to really up our communication skills. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm also almost fed up with video conferencing already, because it's not that eyeball contact. You can't read the room. I find in video conferences a lot of people talk over each other because it's not that human interaction. And we did have people that said that they wanted to flexible working and working from home. And they said they loved it for the first week. Now they can't wait to get back. So there's a new normal that we have to face. And as business owners and business leaders, I'm now discussing with my management team the problems that we're going to face with regard to the flexible working request. Somebody who says, why do I have to come back to the office? Because I've been remote for the last 10, 15 weeks and I've done fine. Why do I need to come back in? So we've got to work through all those problems, and we don't have all the answers at the moment, but we're working on it, because it's the reality of where we're going to and where we're going to, how it's going to be. I expect you've all experienced different thought processes while you've been at home. Sometimes it's not so bad. Sometimes you want to be in the office discussing things with people. It's the new normal. What's it going to be? I think it's going to be a lot more of this, a lot more remote, a lot less traveling, a lot more smart buildings. But we just have to work through it.
We're also, as I said before, I mean, we are social animals, aren't we? So
yeah,
you know, work is a big centre of social contact for people, always has been. Even the younger people of today, who might be a bit more au fait with, you know, communicating with their friends on one of these smartphones, will still want to meet people physically. But
yeah, and our part of our recovery plan that we're looking at now, for me, I've broken it into 5 elements, really, rather than the 7 Ps. I've gone for 5 Ps, which is people, because we've got to look at what that looks like for our people, and whether they're home working, whether they're coming in the office. Processes, how do we manage the differences of the difference of people, some of them working on the same project from home, some of them being in the office. How do we make sure that collaboration happens? How do we manage that processes? Profit, of course, because we've got to make money. We can't reinvest if we don't make money. The partnerships, and the partnerships is about our partnerships with our clients. What's their new normal? What's their working practices? And of course, our subcontractors, because we are the link between our subcontractors and where we supply these guys and the client's processes. So what does all this look like? And then finally, the one that I've put down is predictions. What do we think is going to happen, and what scenarios do we need to model for? What if there is a second wave? What are we going to do? What does that affect? What levers do we pull? When do we pull them? What does the rest of the year look like, really, with the clients that we've got? Never mind just this month, next month, which is hand to mouth at the moment, but what's the next year look like in our best guess? So those are the things that we're looking at as an organisation for our return to work.
Brings me nicely to the last question I want to ask you before I open this up. You've realised, in a sense, there's trapped value in your people, and this is a term we've been talking about quite a bit. We were discussing at book club last week, but by which I mean they could be offering more if you were able to find the right mechanisms for them to be able to do so. I think could you just give a brief insight into what you've discovered around this? It kind of links back to what you were just saying, I think.
Yeah, it's very much for me that collaboration piece. In that when you're in an office with people, you can walk the floor and chat with people and saying, where are we with so and so? Where are you with that job? And you're talking to your team members all the time. And the managers obviously know what's going on in their organizations, but I can be talking to one of our automation guys about some great technology that they're employing, but I also know that somebody else in another part of the business is working on another project, and it is that bridge that you build and say, well, have you spoken to Jess about that, because she's working on this project? And there isn't that interaction. And because we've got some really bright graduates and really clever technical people, we're looking at how our communications will bring them together and how we get that innovation out of them, because we as an organization are changing, the market we work in is changing, so we've got to train our young people for jobs that are going to be in the business that we're going to be rather than the business we are. And that, again, doing it remotely is very difficult, so we don't have all the answers yet, but I think we're asking the right questions and engaging with our people, because at the moment some of the youngsters that are, perhaps I shouldn't use the term youngsters, but the younger employees that we have, they must feel that they're on a hamster wheel because they're delivering our outputs to the client that we're contracted to deliver, but there isn't that interaction to get that extra value and their fresh thinking and the freshness that they bring to products and services that we can freshen and keep evolving what we do. So we're now working on how we get that with our younger employees, so that they learn from the older who know the trajectory and know what works and doesn't work, and they can bring their fresh thinking to what we do and how we do it. So there's a number of initiatives that we're looking at to see how we bring this together, because there's a lot of value that's sitting at kitchen tables at the moment that we're just not drawing from.
Well, that seems to be a good place in which to end this conversation. It remains for me to thank you, Phil, for your insights, which I've certainly found inspirational. If you'd like to find out more about how we could help you with your crisis planning during these difficult times, please don't hesitate to visit our website, www.hgkc.co.uk, and get in touch. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.